Farrow finally talks about the day that changed everything after keeping quiet about it for decades. She went into Woody Allen's room in January 1992 and saw pictures that would shock her to the core. But that wasn't the worst thing they found. She then went through a terrible nightmare of lies, abuse claims, and family secrets she has kept hidden until now. She's finally ready to tell the terrible truth about the man she calls her biggest mistake in life at the age of 79. She was born in Los Angeles, California on February 9, 1945. Everybody in her family worked in Hollywood. John Farrow was her famous Australian father and writer, and Maureen O'Sullivan was her famous mother. Maureen O'Sullivan played Jane in the Tarzan movies in the 1930s and 1940s. Mia was the third child in a family of 7. She grew up in Beverly Hills, where there was a lot of wealth. Hollywood stars often came to her family's big, fancy house. The people who were her godparents were also famous. Luella Parsons was a powerful gossip writer, and George Cukor was a famous director. As a kid, Mia liked to play and act out. For tourists who came by her house, she liked putting on scary little shows with fake blood and toy knives. She was only 2 years old when she was in a short movie called Unusual Occupations. Film taught Holiday. This was a sign that she would become an actress someday. But not every part of her childhood was great. There were a lot of fights between her father and mother because he drank too much. Even though Mia was very young, these fights made her think a lot about family and relationships. Faith was also very important to her family. They lived a Hollywood lifestyle, but they were very religious and followed Roman Catholic rules. The kids in Mia's family went to Los Angeles Catholic schools. She learned strong morals and a sense of duty from her religious background. In later years, this made her want to help other people and adopt kids from different backgrounds. Something terrible took place when Mia was 9 years old. A lot of people got polio in Los Angeles in 1954, and she got it. She had to be quarantined in the hospital and stay there by herself for 3 weeks. Not only did the disease hurt her legs, but it also hurt her back, neck, and back. She had to be put in an iron lung at one point to help her breathe. It was just as hard for her to be away from her folks as it was to be sick. The nurses were mean to her, even though she was scared and confused. She was crying, and one nurse told her she was making things worse for everyone. The treatments were also bad, and Mia didn't like the hot packs they used. Afterwards, she said that having polio made her feel like she had lost her youth. The world became much scarier for her after that, and she no longer felt safe or kept. Mia was 13 years old when her family went through another terrible event. Her big brother Michael died in an airplane crash. Michael was in the Marine Corps Reserve and only 19 years old. The crash took place near Pima, California on October 28, 1958. The family as a whole was very sad. Already having a hard time with drinking, her dad got even worse. This made her parents fight more violently with each other. Mia and her sister Prudence were in England at the time, going to a nuns' school. Mia was away from home when she heard Michael had died, which made her feel even more alone. My daughter Mia went back to her school in Surrey after Michael's funeral. Her family stayed in London for a while before moving to a house in Chelsea. Everyone was having a hard time, but Mia saw her parents fight more than ever. Mia moved to New York City with her mother after her father died in 1963. Things changed here. She started out as a model and then moved on to playing in plays. It wasn't simple. She tried out for roles and was turned down, but she didn't give up. This was her first small part as a child. It wasn't a big deal, but it showed her what was to come. She learned how to stay strong and keep trying from these hard starts. Soon her hard work paid off. and she began to build her business. She tried out for a big part in 1965 Liesl von Trapp in The Sound of Music. She didn't get the part, but this was a big moment. There is still a screen test of her singing and acting that we can see today. It shows how talented she was at a young age. It was very tough to get the part because The Sound of Music was going to be a big hit. Even though Mia didn't get the job, she kept going. Soon after, she got a part in Peyton Place, which changed everything. She missed The Sound of Music, but it was just another step on her path. From 1964 to 1966, Mia played Allison Mackenzie on Peyton Place, which made her famous. The show was about a small town and the stories, relationships, and problems that happened there. Most people know Mia for her part as Allison, a sweet but complicated young woman. The show was a big hit, with millions of fans every week. It was one of the first big soap operas on TV. People cared about Allison because of how Mia played her, which showed how skilled she was. But it wasn't all good to be popular. The news started to follow her around and paid a lot of attention to her marriage to Frank Sinatra. Her personal life took a lot of attention away from her work. Miss Mia quit Peyton Place after 2 years because Sinatra told her to in 1966. She went through a big change when she quit the show. She then turned her attention to movies, which is how she got the part that made her famous. Mia played the lead role in Roman Polanski's psychological horror film Rosemary's Baby in 1968. She played Rosemary Woodhouse, a pregnant woman who slowly comes to understand that something bad is going on around her. It was a story about trust, fear, and the bad things people can do. The movie made more than $30 million and got great reviews from many people. Mia's acting was praised for how real it made Rosemary's fear and confusion feel. Roger Ebert even said that her work was great. This part turned Mia into a real movie star and changed how people thought about women in scary movies. Rosemary wasn't just a victim. She was a complex figure that people could relate to. It became one of the best horror movies ever, and in 2014 it was added to the Library of Congress because of how it changed culture. Rosemary's Baby did more than just make Mia popular. It showed the world how talented and unique she was, paving the way for a career full of one-of-a-kind roles that people will remember. The one between Mia Farrow and Woody Allen is one of the most talked about and troubled in Hollywood history. His first movie with her was A Midsummer Night's Sex comedy in 1982. She was in 13 of his movies over the next 10 years. Fox played Ariel, a part that was supposed to go to Diane Keaton. The movie got mixed reviews, but it introduced Farrow to Allen's brand of comedy and began a long artistic partnership. Soon after, Farrow played Dr. Eudora Fletcher in Zelig. She was a therapist who helped Leonard Zelig, a man who could fit in with any group. When it came out in 1983, the movie was a strange mix of fake news and fantasy. Critics praised how well Farrow and Allen worked together on this unique idea and said her performance was calm and convincing. Then there was Broadway Danny Rose in 1984, where Farrow played Tina Vitale, the loud and rude lover of a gangster. The part was very different from anything she had ever done before because she wore dark sunglasses and spoke with a strong New York accent. She was nominated for a Golden Globe because of how well she played the part. Allen even said it was brave of her to take on such a difficult part because it required her to change so much physically and emotionally. In 1985, she gave one of her most moving performances in The Purple Rose of Cairo. Farrow played Cecilia, a waitress who was having a hard time during the Great Depression and goes to the movies to escape. This time, she was nominated for another Golden Globe for her role as an innocent girl who loses her heart. The movie itself got great reviews and is often thought of as one of Allen's best. Farrow's acting was the most moving part of it. When they worked together on Hannah and Her Sisters in 1986, it was after making some of Allen's most acclaimed movies. Hannah, played by Farrow, is a steady and loving woman whose life ties all the other characters together. Even though Farrow wasn't nominated for any awards, the movie was one of Allen's biggest hits and won several Academy Awards. The way Farrow played the part gave it a quiet power that could have been missed otherwise. Farrow showed her comic side again in Radio Days, which came out in 1987. She played Sally White, a cigarette girl who wants to be a radio star. It was funny and cute to see how she went from having a squeaky voice and no one to being sure of herself. In late that same year, she was in September, a movie that was much darker and more personal. Farrow played Lane, a woman who was healing from trauma and having a hard time dealing with her feelings in a small space. The part was intense, and it gave her a chance to go into more serious, dramatic ground. The movie wasn't a big hit, but Farrow's acting stood out because it was so honest. In the 1988 movie Another Lady, Farrow played Hope, a troubled lady whose therapy sessions are heard by the main character. Even though she only had a small part, her acting was very important to the story and showed that she could make an impact even in a supporting role. Crimes and Misdemeanors came out in 1989, but Farrow had already been in a lot of Allen's movies before that. She played Hallie Reed, a documentary director who was having problems with her love life. Even though her part wasn't the main one, she added depth and nuance to a movie that was praised for how it looked at morals and relationships between people. In the 1990 movie Alice, Farrow played the lead role of a wealthy Manhattan housewife who goes on a magical trip to find herself. She was nominated for another Golden Globe for this part, and critics loved how she mixed being funny and vulnerable. It was a part that let Farrow show both her funny and serious sides, showing once more how flexible she was. Shades and Fog, which came out in 1991, starred Farrow as Ermi, a strange sword swallower in a moving circus. The movie was a tribute to German expressionist film. It got mixed reviews, but Farrow's performance made the whole group come alive. Husbands and Wives, their last movie together, came out in 1992. Judy, played by Farrow, was a woman who was dealing with the end of her marriage. The movie felt raw, almost like a documentary, and Farrow's performance was real and full of feeling. Even though it was made during a rough time in her personal life, her work was praised by many. In these 13 movies, Farrow showed that she could play both comedic and serious roles, and she often changed her whole personality for each part. She was nominated for 3 Golden Globes for her roles in Broadway's Danny Rose, The Purple Rose of Cairo, and Alice. Even when she wasn't getting awards, her performances were memorable and made her an important part of some of Allen's most famous and well-reviewed movies. She married Frank Sinatra on July 19, 1966, when she was 21 years old. Sinatra was 50 years old, which is a huge 31-year age difference. They met in 1964 on the 20th Century Fox lot and quickly fell in love, even though they were very different. Sinatra was getting married for the 4th time, but Farrow was getting married for the first time. There were a lot of problems right after the big wedding in Las Vegas. Sinatra wanted her to stop acting so they could spend more time together. When she got a part in Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby in 1968, this became a big deal. He was so mad that he sent her divorce papers while she was shooting. They broke up because Farrow wouldn't quit the movie. She later said that she wasn't ready for such a complicated romance because she was young. Even after getting divorced in 1968, they stayed close, and Farrow said they never really mentally split up. They stayed friends until Sinatra passed away. In 1998, Farrow married Andre Previn, who she had met through Sinatra in 1970. Another big age difference was that she was 25 and he was 49. They got married in 1960 and had twin sons named Matthew and Sasha in 1970. In 1974, they had another son named Fletcher. Farrow also started taking in kids as her own. While she was still with Previn, she took Lark from Vietnam and Daisy from Korea into her home. Things looked good in their family, but things went wrong when Farrow found out Previn was cheating on her. In 1979, they split up because of this. Later, Farrow said she felt bad about how the split affected her children, but she kept her mind on being a good mother. In 1979, the same year that Farrow lost her husband, she began dating director Woody Allen. One of the most talked about parts of her life would happen here. They were together for 12 years, and Farrow was in 13 of Allen's movies during that time. Working together on projects helped her career, but their personal life turned into a scandal in the end. His family got bigger over time. She became famous for lovingly adopting many kids and being a mother, as well as having her 3 biological boys. She adopted Lark and Daisy while she was married to Previn. She kept adopting even after she got divorced. She had Moses in 1980 and Dylan in 1985. Dylan later became a key part of her fight with Allen. In the 1990, as Farrow had adopted even more kids. Thaddeus came from India and Quincy Maureen came from Vietnam. She accepted 14 kids in total, making her family big and varied. Even though she was dedicated to being a mother, she experienced sadness. Tam died in 2000, Lark died in 2008, and Thaddeus died in 2016. Even though these losses were terrible, Farrow kept strong for her family. She became an advocate for children's rights and used her voice to help kids around the world who were in danger. In January 1992, Mia Farrow's life took a terrible turn when she found out that her long-term partner, Woody Allen, was cheating on her with her adopted daughter, Soon-Yi Previn. The event was frightening and will never be forgotten. Mia found a stack of racy Polaroid photos of Soon-Yi when she went to Woody's place in New York. They started seeing each other while Soon-Yi was still living with Mia. She was 21 years old at the time. Early in her relationship with Woody, Mia took in Soon-Yi as her own child in 1977 D. Discovering these pictures was a terrible betrayal that broke Mia's faith and the foundations of her family. Mia and Woody had been dating for over 10 years. They made a unique and difficult family while they were together. They had 3 kids together. Dylan and Moses were adopted, and Ronan, who was born with the name Satchel, was their own child. When the pictures were found, things really broke down. Mia later gave a detailed account of how she felt. "I was just shaking. I took my child home and locked the door." The betrayal wasn't just about Woody, it was also about Soon-Yi, whom Mia had loved and raised. The pain was terrible and came on right away. The finding caused a huge amount of damage. The affair became very popular very quickly, and the media jumped on the tail. The news stories weren't just about cheating, they also talked about morals, power, and family loyalty. When Mia told Sun-Yi about the pictures, the conversation was full of raw emotions, like tears, anger, and confusion. Because of what Sun-Yi did and Woody's betrayal, Mia couldn't figure out what was going on in her own home. People didn't believe Woody when he tried to protect himself by saying that Mia's accusations were based on her anger over his relationship with Sun-Yi. The public didn't believe him, and his reputation took a big hit. But that wasn't the only thing that happened. In 1992, Woody Allen was accused of sexually abusing Dylan Farrow, his adopted daughter who was 7 years old. Dylan told her mom, Mia Farrow, on August 4, that Allen had sex with her at their home in Connecticut. This happened not long after Mia learned that Allen was seeing her adopted daughter, Sun-Yi Previn. When Mia found out that Allen had betrayed her, she was heartbroken, and she was also trying to figure out what Dylan's shocking claim meant. Dylan told Mia what happened, and she began filming her on a video. She wanted to write down what Dylan said about the supposed abuse. In the court case that followed, this video was one of the most important pieces of proof. The Connecticut State Police started to look into it. To find out what happened, they talked to Dylan and other family members. Even though the accusations were very serious, no charges were brought. The state's attorney said there wasn't enough proof to bring charges, but they also said they couldn't say for sure that abuse hadn't happened. As part of the study, doctors at Yale New Haven Hospital talked to Dylan to find out how she was feeling and thinking. A lot of people disagreed with what they found. Some experts said Dylan's words sounded like they were practiced or affected by Mia. Others saw gaps and thought Dylan might have been coached. Others, though, thought Dylan's pain was real and that her feelings showed she had been through real trauma. Different points of view made the case even more difficult. Allen also asked for custody of Dylan and his other 2 kids, Moses and Satchel. The custody fight was emotional and watched by a lot of people. Even though both sides had proof and witnesses, the judge chose Mia's side. Allen lost the right to see Dylan, and she kept control of the kids. The judge's decision showed that he or she had major concerns about Allen's actions. The fight went on longer. Allen and Mia blamed each other for wrongdoing for years, and the case stayed in the public eye. Dylan grew up, but she stuck to her story and insisted it was true. Mia Farrow's role in the HBO show Allen v. Farrow was a big step in her long battle to tell her side of the story about Woody Allen and the abuse claims made against their daughter Dylan Farrow. The film was directed by Kirby Dick and Amy Ziering and came out on February 21, 2021. It had 4 parts that went into great detail about what happened in 1992, when Dylan, who was only 7 years old at the time, accused Allen of abusing him. Making the movie was possible with the help of home videos, court records, police reports, and talks with family members and experts. Mia wasn't sure at first if she wanted to be in the show. They had to persuade her, and to keep it a secret, they called it the Eliza Project while they were making it. They didn't want Mia and Dylan's story to be twisted by the media, which often made everything seem more important than it was. Old videos from Mia's home were one of the most powerful parts of the program. It showed Dylan telling her story as a child, not long after the claimed abuse. This was very moving and heartbreaking to watch because it showed what the family went through in an honest way. What happened after the accusations was also shown on the show, such as Mia and Woody's nasty fight over custody. Views of the public and news in the media were very important, and they often sided with Allen. Some people thought the story was unfair because he refused to be in the video. Others said that his absence gave Mia and Dylan the time and space they needed to talk about their feelings without being interrupted. In either case, the story stuck on Mia and Dylan's point of view, showing how strong and hurt they were. Being in this documentary made Mia Farrow feel a lot of different things. She talked about how her friendship with the Oscar-winning director went from being happy to making her feel bad in a rare interview. She said she was over the moon happy in the beginning, but by the 1990s, everything had changed. Today, Farrow didn't hold back when she talked about how she felt about Alan. She said that being with them was the worst thing that had ever happened to her. People says, she said, if I could take it all back, I would. Farrow talked more about her connection with him. In an interview with Elle in 2018, I wish I'd never met him. That's my biggest regret in life, to bring someone like that into the family who should never have been there. She told them it wasn't as easy as they might have thought. She said, it's not all black or white. If you didn't, you'd wonder what the hell you're doing with that person for 10 minutes, let alone 10 years. Alan and Farrow are still not close. Alan told The Hollywood Reporter in 2016 that they don't talk to each other. He said no when asked if he ever sees Farrow. I don't think she lives in New York. I think she lives in Connecticut, but I'm not sure. Or she travels for UNICEF or something. Almost 30 years after their very public breakup and custody battle, Farrow said she still worries about what Alan might do, especially after her role in the HBO show. Soon-Yi and Alan have been married for 23 years and have 2 girls together. Alan did not appear in the documentary but was heard in audiobook excerpts from his 2020 memoir, Apropos of Nothing. In the documentary, Farrow talked about her worries. She said, I'm just scared. As she said, I'm scared of him because someone who doesn't care about the truth will do anything. Someone who will do anything is someone to be scared of. So I worry that when this documentary comes out, he'll be on the attack again. She also said that she thought Alan would do anything to protect himself. He'll do whatever he has to do to try to save himself from the truth, from the mess he made, he said. The pain and fear she has been carrying for years were very clear in the words she used. In the 2000s, Mia Farrow's work went through a lot of changes. Moving from movies to TV and theater showed that she could still do well in different parts. She went years without acting because she was busy raising her kids, but she came back to acting with a lot of energy. At this time, she had one of her first TV parts in the show Third Watch. From 2000 to 2003, she was in 5 shows, all of which were about a mother in a rough city who had to deal with tough situations. She could show people that she could handle deep, dramatic stories even when she wasn't in the spotlight. The TV show A Girl Thing, which Mia was in 2001, was about love and friendship between women. She was in movies with Kate Capshaw, Stockard Channing, and other well-known actors. The movie dealt with issues that are still important to people today, and Mia's part made the story more moving. Then, in 2002, she was the lead in The Secret Life of Zoe, a Lifetime movie. Mia's performance showed that she could bring depth and understanding to this type of modern family drama. The story was about a young girl who was having personal troubles. Mia also began doing theater at the same time. In 2002, she joined a moving play called The Exonerated. This play was about people who got sent to jail or the death penalty without a good reason. It was clear from her part that she wanted to be in stories that were serious and had real value. She was in a play called Fran's Bed in 2003. It was an emotional look at love and death. It was clear from this play that Mia could still play strong parts and connect with people on stage. In the 2000s, Mia also began to focus on helping people. She used her fame as a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador to help kids all over the world who were in need. She went to parts of Africa and Asia that had been through war, poverty, and sickness. It was one of the most important trips she ever took because it showed her how much violence hurts so many people. In 2006, she went to Chad to see refugee camps where people from Darfur had gone to get safety. She listened to their stories and called attention to how much pain they were in. She spoke out against the violence and asked everyone to protect these weak people right away. Because of her work, the disaster got more attention from the media, and more people joined the fight to help Darfur. Mia did more than just talk about the issues. She joined efforts like Fund for Darfur to help raise money for projects that work for peace and for people who have been hurt by violence. She told people real-life stories to show how important and real these problems were. She worked hard, and groups that fight for human rights gave her awards for it. A lot of people were moved to help others by Mia's work with UNICEF. This shows that a famous person can use their words to make a difference. Her work to help people in Darfur became a big part of her action. She said things were getting worse when she went to Chad in 2006. Chad had become part of Darfur, and now not even the refugees were safe. In 2009, Mia went on a hunger strike to draw attention to this. There was a strike for several days, and the news covered it a lot. This helped her message get to more people. That's not all. She also worked with aid groups like Save Darfur Coalition and Aegis Trust to help people start over with their lives. Even with all of her activity, Mia was still able to keep her acting job. Even though it wasn't easy to raise 14 kids, she still did acting jobs that were important to her. She did less work in big movies and more work on TV and stage projects that were in line with her views. She also talked about problems around the world in public and in media. She made sure that her acting job and her work for the community supported each other by combining the two.